I hated the amazing digital circus. Well, okay, maybe hate is a little bit of a strong word. It was more of an extreme dislike, perpetuated by the insistence that the show was the greatest thing anyone had ever seen in years. Personally, I thought it was fine. Not anything special. I mean, it wasn't bad, but more so mid. The original definition of mid. Of course, that indifference spiraled into an intense disliking the more and more people treated it like it was God's gift to cartoon kind. But I never hated the show. And I definitely never had any ill will to the people working on the show. I'm not Mr. Enter. However, I did post some, let's just say, inflammatory tweets that are now deleted out of shame about some of the naming choices in the show. But up until December of last year, I hadn't actually watched the show past the second episode because I'd seen all I thought I needed to see from the show and wrote it off as yet another mid-glitch production show about video games. I kept seeing people's posts about the show though, so I got some sense of the plot developments and character moments, like Kinger's thing with his wife and Light, Jax and Ragatha at the deep fryer, most of what happened in Untitled for some reason, and of course Jax's monologue from the end of the gun episode. I'll admit, some of it had me intrigued, but other parts definitely kept me away. That all changed though when episode 7 released. I saw that it was coming out and figured since I had most of the context of the previous episodes, that I'd watch it and give the show another fair shot. And boy am I glad I did, because oh my god I love this show now. You won, Gooseworks, you won. You managed to win over even the most cynical hater of your show. And it's all thanks to this one scene. So what is it about this scene that's so amazing it changed my view on Digital Circus as a whole? I just think it's cool. I mean, the entire show is built around these people who are trapped in this circus forever with no way out, yet they're all trying to escape. And finally, in this episode, we see an opportunity arise, supposedly, for them to get out, through this new character, Abel. Now, his name being Abel is significant, as basically everyone, myself included, concluded after episode 1 that the company that runs the circus, CNA, was named after the biblical brothers Cain and Abel, since, you know, Cain. Also, there was the Last Supper allusion at the end of the pilot, further cementing this parallel. The Cain and Abel thing seemed incredibly obvious, and was probably part of the reason I wrote the show off, since I thought it was going to be about this stupid, predictable lore that I didn't care about at all. But now I see it was made obvious intentionally, to set up this episode and mess with your expectations. This entire episode exists to just completely destroy your expectations. Before this episode, the leading theory was that everyone was in like stasis pods with their consciousnesses in the game, and that Abel was a developer of the circus like Kinger, and they set all that up in this episode just to destroy it in the end. Having this all be another one of Cain's adventures, trying to make them happy since they all want to escape the circus, is just a really good twist. And somehow, despite the characters themselves doubting it, I fell for it. Maybe I'm just stupid, maybe it's because I was jumping in without proper context, who knows. To be fair, I didn't know how many episodes the show was going to be, so I didn't know there were still 2 episodes left. The twist is foreshadowed great, too, with Abel trying to make everyone sympathize with Cain. It's really clever in hindsight. There's even a bee drawn on the blueprints. But that's not even the best part of the scene. Remember how I said it's all the characters' goals to escape from the circus? Well, turns out that might not be exactly true. Jax hitting the button that keeps everyone in the circus, or at least that's what everyone thinks the buttons do, is such an incredibly cool moment. I didn't expect that button to even be hit, so to see Jax freak out and betray everyone was crazy, especially since you can't even process it before Cain comes out. It's a truly jaw-dropping, heart-stopping, mind-bending moment. There's a lot of theories about why Jax did this, from Jax not wanting to leave his abstracted friends behind, Jax not wanting to go back to his real life, him thinking if they go back to the real world, he won't see anyone again, running over a child in the real world. All solid theories, and are probably all at least partly true. Well, okay, maybe not the running over a child part, but I think the true explanation is just this. Jax is a character who has time and time again rejected his humanity, choosing to repress it and pretend that he, and everyone else in the circus, are now just silly cartoon characters. So being confronted with the possibility of everyone leaving directly contradicts this, which leads to him pressing the red button so that he can stay in this cartoon world forever, never having to confront the human side of himself or face the idea that he's caused real harm to those around him. Regardless of the cause, it's just cool, and is part of why Jax is my favorite character in the show. This scene also kind of acts as the final nail in the coffin to the idea that Digital Circus would be some crazy, lore-bait, mystery-driven, CNA-centric show. You literally have one of the main characters rejecting the concept of CNA, of the lore, of leaving the circus, and instead putting all of the focus on the circus and his character. Also, aside from story choices, I think this episode and especially this scene look incredible. Like, the animation, lighting, staging, everything has been improved, like 1,000 times from the episodes I watched. It's really impressive. I honestly thought the show was kinda ugly at first. Well animated, but the lighting was pretty bad, to be honest. But it's much better now. I know the lighting thing was at least partially intentional, wanting to emulate the look of old PC edutainment games. And while that is a cool idea on paper, the new style is just better in every way. I am also quite fond of the pose Kane is in when he appears in the screen. Just wanted to mention that. At this point, I feel like I've run out of things to say about that one specific scene, so if you don't mind, the rest of this video will just be about the things that I like, and some of the things that I don't like about the show. There will be no spoilers for the finale in this video, as at the time of writing I actually haven't seen it yet. I, the Koopa Kaper recording this, have seen it. I'm not gonna tell you about it though. I really love the gun episode. That's easily my favorite. The way Jax and Pomni are written is extremely compelling to me. The dynamic is the best part of the show for sure, and the fact that the fans freaked out when Gooseworks confirmed that Pomni and Jax were the main characters is hilarious. It was so obvious. He was in all the promotional material and a lot of the concept art before the show too. Like, come on. The circus's rules are really interesting in this episode. We see that shooting is easier the less real you treat it, and to a certain extent, you can do whatever you want, like with Pomni's trick shot at the end. We also see Kinger summon a butterfly and heal Ragatha, saying later that he just made it up. It operates completely on cartoon rules, and I think the cast, other than Kinger, aren't aware of just how much control they actually have. I think it's kinda like the Gravity Falls episode Dreamscaperers, where the cast of that show realize that they have complete control within the dreamscape, and are able to make up whatever they want. I think the circus works similarly to that. I also love that this mechanic of the circus sort of lines up with Jax's philosophy of everyone just being cartoon characters now, and how the less real you treat yourself in the world around you, the easier things can be. It's interesting that he's ultimately kind of correct about everyone just being silly cartoon characters, especially if the mind clone theory is correct. I also love the scene where Ragatha uses the cartoon physics against him, and it just completely pisses him off. Lots of great character moments in this episode. Kinger's talk with Ragatha in the loser's corner is great too, even if it is a little ham-fisted. I know people say this show is bad because it's therapy speak, but the only character that can really apply to is Kinger. And he's written intentionally overly emotionally intelligent in these scenes to contrast with him normally being completely nonsensical, and also to show that he's wise from being old. What people don't seem to understand, for whatever reason, is that the show being less focused on cartoony hijinks and more on the interpersonal drama and character development, despite the setup of the show seemingly calling for more episodic adventures, is an intentional choice. The wacky characters having real serious conversations is the point. The contrast is intentional. It furthers the ideas presented within the show. Why do you think Kane at his most evil was forcing these characters to go through wacky, action-packed adventures when all they wanted to do was talk and take time to process things? The disparity between what the show looks like it'd be and what it actually is creates meaning. It's not a flaw or a mistake. You're completely within your right to dislike that direction, but don't act like it's some flaw with the show. Watch something else. I know it's clowned on a lot, but I really love the infamous scene from the end of this episode where Pomni fights Jax. Like, the whole scene from beginning to end. It's a pretty long scene. I love Jax realizing that Pomni's attempt to get close to him through being chaotic evil and just having fun with the game actually worked, and him immediately disengaging with the concept and refusing to admit that they were even a team. Pomni never falls for this shit either. She sees right through Jax and really gets under his mask really well. And it's also clear that Jax actually really likes Pomni, but refuses to earnestly engage with her. Or anyone. I love the way she just starts beating his ass and how she knows he won't fight back. The scene is just full of really interesting looks into the characters' characters. The episode isn't perfect, of course. It has parts that aren't as strong, mostly in the beginning, but once the episode actually gets into the action, it stays great throughout. I like the running joke of Gangle with the Tommy gun. We need to find the Tommy gun! The animation is also once again great. I really love Jax's expressions and the ways they use his eyes to illustrate Jax losing his mask and putting it back on. The scene where Pomni and Jax have a shootout with Kinger in a dark room is great and pretty funny. I love the way the loser's corner looks and the way light is used during Zooble and Gangle's heart-to-heart. I still feel silly saying their names back to back. The other episodes of the show are great, too. Episode 5's a nice chill episode with a good variety of adventures, and really lets the cast breathe and interact with each other, and we learn a lot about them. I feel like more episodes could have been like this, but whatever. I also really like the voting gimmick, and feel like it was underused. It's really only used to make Jax a vegan, which is really funny, but also forces him into a maid outfit, which is one of the worst scenes in the show. The maid outfit thing was already played out before this episode even went into production, and it feels really shoehorned in. At least have the decency to have your fan service fit in. I also really love the evil softball team. That's a great bit.
Well, hello, stupid Gatha! I hope you're ready to get completely annihilated!
We were robbed of evil Gangle, though. Episode 4 I have more mixed feelings on. On the one hand, I like the chill atmosphere. The fast food adventure works really well and puts all the characters in interesting situations. Gummy Goo's appearance is really cool. The stupid sauce is fun. Jax's little subplot is pretty good, but I don't know. The vibes are just off in this episode. And while I do like Gangle, I don't like her that much in this episode, and her story just doesn't really work for me. The moment at the end feels super forced and out of nowhere. This is probably the best paced episode, and it completely nails what I would want the show to be like if it had more episodes, but it's paired with a main plot that I just don't care for. I want to love this episode because it has a lot to love, but it just falls flat for me. Episode 3 is like 4, except there's a lot less here for me to like. Kinger is obviously the focus, and he is great here, but the plot of this episode is just so boring. I get it's slow because it's trying to be horror, but it's not even scary. You can't have horror pacing with a comedic tone, that's just called being boring. I also hate a lot of Pomni's dialogue in this episode. It's everything I hate about TADC's writing, all in just a few lines of dialogue somehow.
Oh, that's... no...
Overall, I love Kinger's stuff here, and how the breathing thing comes full circle, but that's pretty much it. Animation is still nice though. I love the 2D animated eyes part. Episode 2 and the pilot are very similar in terms of their quality, both animation and writing wise. By that I mean, they're fine. The writing is fine, with some pretty bad lines, but overall functional and interesting. I understand why I didn't like these episodes on first watch, as there's not much to dig into yet, and there's still a lot of unfunny, quirky writing. But I also can see why I like it now on rewatch. Episode 2's ending is genuinely really strong and unexpected, so I have to give it props. I didn't appreciate the Gummy Goo plot enough the first time I watched it. There's also Episode 8, which I wasn't planning on talking about in this video because it was supposed to release before Episode 8, but clearly that didn't end up happening, so whatever, I'll just talk about it now. It's great. I love Kane so much here. I really love his turn to evil, and especially how he looks right at the end before he's deleted. The animation is at its best in this episode, and I love the parallel to the pilot here, if not just to compare how drastic the animation difference is. There's a really fun musical number with amazing visuals, and that opening with the dots is really cool and effective storytelling without any dialogue. The flashback showing Queenie's abstraction and Ragatha entering the circus was great to see, and I can't wait to see more of the past in the finale. And the torture sequence is just amazing. Maybe one of the best sequences in the entire show. They all feel fitting for their characters, and they're all incredibly gruesome in their own ways. I think it is a bit weird to go from episode 7's "ha ha ha, you were all wrong about CNA" to "actually, you were kinda right" immediately in the next episode. This is where I think some extra episodes could have helped. There's a part about halfway into the episode where it cuts to several days later, and I think that could have been the start of an episode, with the musical number leading into the adventure of the day. The fact that this episode was originally supposed to be part of episode 7 is insane, because honestly, this episode already feels a little bit rushed for time, and I feel like it already could have been split into 2 episodes. Still, what the episode does good overshadows the small issues. I still think this episode is really great. So how do I feel about the show overall? Well, obviously I think it's good. Despite what I said earlier, I do think the show could have focused on cartoon hijinks a little bit more. There's a lot of potential for it with these characters and within this world. Sure, I guess some would call it filler, but it could be fun, and you could use it to flesh out the characters and give their relationships time to grow. There'd be more time to breathe between major plot developments, and I think having the show change more slowly from cartoon fun to melodrama could have helped ease people into it, and I think we'd see less complaints about it. The characters are strong though, and the story is great. I mean, I love the show now, so clearly I think positively of it. So I guess the moral of the story is don't be a hater? Or maybe don't be an ass on social media about the things that you hate. Unless that thing is smiling, friends. They deserve it, because that show is Hey. What? I know you're like waiting to release that video that ranks every Rick and Morty episode until season 9 is out, but would it kill you to talk about something that isn't for babies while we wait? I'll have you know, The Amazing Digital Circus is for teenagers. It's okay, Pomni. I won't let him hurt you. Uh-huh. Look, you have fun playing with your toys for gaybies. That's what I call gay babies. I'm gonna get back to being a pickle! Ayo! Alright, you do that. He's already gone. So join me August 1st for that Rick and Morty video. Probably. I think my next video is gonna be about the FNAF 2 movie, so stay tuned for that. And let me know what you like about The Amazing Digital Circus, and subscribe or whatever. Okay, bye.